Welcome to this deep dive, and we are going to explore the world of asteroid impacts.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about this a little bit off the air, but I'm really fascinated by it.
It's a fascinating topic for sure.
Yeah, and when I was looking at all the research that you sent over, uh, I was really struck by that 2013 Chelyabinsk meteor in Russia.
Right.
A rock heavier than the Eiffel Tower explodes in the atmosphere.
It's incredible.
People saw a flash brighter than the sun, and then because it exploded so high up, there was this eerie silence before this shockwave hit.
You know that silence before the shockwave? I bet that was really unnerving for those people.
Oh, absolutely.
And then to have that shockwave come and injure, over 1,500 people.
Yeah, shattered glass and things like that.
It's I think it was a wake-up call in a lot of ways that these asteroid impacts are not just theoretical.
Yeah, not just something you see in the movies.
Right.
They can happen,
Yeah.
and they can happen without a lot of warning.
And what's really amazing to me is that on that same day, we had actually predicted a different asteroid to fly by the Earth.
Yeah.
Asteroid Duende.
Right.
And that asteroid came closer to the Earth than some satellites.
Wow.
But we had predicted that we knew that was happening, and it happened as predicted.
We nailed it.
But Chelyabinsk just came out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
that brings up the question of, what makes detecting these things so difficult?
Yeah, why did we miss that one?
Right.
So maybe we should start, with just what are we dealing with here?
Well, asteroids are basically, leftovers from the formation of the solar system.
Oh, so they're like 4.5 billion years old.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
I remember one time I was holding an iron meteorite, and the scientist that was with me said, "That's the oldest thing you'll ever see."
Oh.
They're just this debris left over from that formation. So some are rocky, some are metallic.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah.
That some of them are even formed from the cores of ancient protoplanets.
That's right.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So most asteroids are found in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter.
Right. That's where the majority of them hang out.
Right.
But it's the ones that have orbits that bring them close to the Earth that we really have to worry about.
So the near-Earth objects.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned in your notes that Stephen Hawking considered asteroid impacts to be the biggest threat to life on Earth.
He did.
And given how hard they are to spot, like you were just saying, that's a pretty unsettling thought.
Yeah, it is.
How do we even find these things?
Well, our main tool are ground-based telescopes, and we're basically looking for these tiny little moving dots against the backdrop of billions of stars.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
They're small and they're very dark. They only reflect about 15% of the light that hits them.
Oh, wow.
So they're just really hard to see. And then to make matters worse, we can only really see them well when they're fully illuminated by the sun.
So like when they're opposite the sun from our perspective.
Right. It's called opposition effect.
Okay.
And so that means that anything coming from the direction of the sun is basically invisible to us.
Oh, so like Chelyabinsk.
Exactly. Chelyabinsk came from the direction of the sun, hidden in plain sight.
And we had no idea.
No idea.
So it kind of makes you wonder how many more are out there that we just haven't seen yet.
That's the scary thought. Yeah.
And, speaking of scary, one of the research papers you sent me was talking about the Barringer crater in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever been there?
I haven't been there, but I've studied it, and I'm really fascinated by impact craters.
I mean, it's a mile wide.
It's an incredible example of the energy released during an impact.
It's huge.
Yeah, it was formed about 50,000 years ago by an asteroid roughly the size of the Chelyabinsk meteor.
Wait a minute. So something Chelyabinsk size created a crater that big?
That's right.
I mean, what kind of energy are we talking about here?
The energy released was equivalent to 10 megatons of TNT.
Wow.
That's over 600 times the power of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
It's just mind-boggling.
It is.
Yeah, that really puts things in perspective. And, I was reading this story about Daniel Barringer, who the crater's named after.
Oh, yeah.
This mining engineer. And he was convinced that there was a giant iron meteorite buried at the bottom of the crater.
He thought there was a fortune to be made.
Like a cosmic gold rush.
Exactly. And he spent 27 years mining that crater, drilling down hundreds of meters.
And what did he find?
He found nothing.
Nothing.
Because he didn't understand the nature of these impacts. The energy is so intense that the asteroid basically vaporizes on impact.
So even if he had found something, it wouldn't have been this giant iron meteorite he was imagining.
Right. It would have been completely vaporized.
Wow. And that kind of brings us to, I guess, the most sobering example of all, and that's the dinosaur extinction event 66 million years ago.
Right.
An asteroid over 6 miles wide struck the Earth and triggered just catastrophic events.
Global firestorms, tsunamis.
Yeah, I read this paper that described it as being cooked alive as they were walking around.
Yeah, it really highlights the devastating power of these impacts and why it's so important that we understand them.
Yeah, it definitely gives you pause.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does make you think, huh?
It does. And, raises the question of what are the chances of something like that happening again?
Oh,
I mean, are
man.
we safe or are we just, waiting for the next big one?
Well, the good news is that another dinosaur killer impact is extremely unlikely in our lifetime.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but we can't ignore the threat posed by smaller asteroids.
Okay, so not a global extinction level event, but
Yeah.
still something big enough to do some serious damage.
Right. And in fact, an asteroid even just 1 to 2 kilometers wide could still cause massive damage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, potentially wiping out an entire country.
So not a global extinction event, but still pretty catastrophic.
Catastrophic, yeah, absolutely.
So have we at least identified all the asteroids in that size range?
We've made good progress in identifying the larger asteroids, but there are still many more out there, particularly those in the few 100-meter range.
The city killers, as they're sometimes
Oh,
called.
yeah, exactly. And those are the ones that really worry me. We haven't found them all, not even close.
Oh, wow.
There could be one out there right now on a collision course with Earth, and we might not even know it.
Okay. That's definitely another chill running down my spine.
One scientist I read said this could happen tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
It's unsettling.
So let's say, hypothetically speaking, we do spot one of these city killer asteroids heading straight for us. What can we do?
That's the question, isn't it?
Is there any way to stop it?
Well, unfortunately, the answer is not really.
Oh,
At least not with our current technology. A lot of the solutions that we see in movies, like blowing them up with nukes, that just wouldn't work.
really?
No, a lot of these asteroids are more like loosely bound rubble piles. So if you blew one up, you wouldn't destroy it, you just scatter the fragments, and they could still impact the Earth, potentially causing even more damage.
Okay, so nukes are out. What about rockets? Could we attach a giant rocket to the asteroid and just
Yeah.
kind of nudge it off course?
Well, it sounds good in theory, but the rockets we have today just aren't powerful enough to make a significant difference.
Not even with multiple rockets or like a sustained thrust over a long period of time.
It's theoretically possible,
Okay.
but the logistics are just mind-boggling. We would need to attach those rockets decades, if not centuries in advance to have a meaningful effect.
And that's assuming we can even land on an asteroid and attach rockets to its surface in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds pretty complicated.
It is.
Okay, so nukes and rockets are off the table. What about lasers?
Lasers.
I've read about using powerful lasers to either vaporize the asteroid or at least nudge it off course.
Yeah, lasers are a popular idea, but again, we run into technological limitations. The laser would need to be incredibly powerful. Something that we just don't have right now. And plus, you'd probably have to put it in space to get it close enough to the asteroid.
Right.
So that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Okay, so we can't nuke it, we can't rocket it, we can't laser it.
Right.
What about some of those more outside-the-box ideas? I remember reading an article about wrapping the asteroid in foil.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that change its reflectivity and eventually alter its course?
So that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And it's based on using the pressure from sunlight to push the asteroid away. But even if we could wrap an asteroid in foil, which is a pretty mind-boggling idea in itself, we would need an astronomical amount of foil.
Yeah, where would we even get that much foil?
Right. The scale of the project is just enormous.
Okay, so we can't nuke it, rocket it, laser it, or wrap it in foil.
Right.
What about evacuating the city?
Ah.
I mean, surely we can at least do that.
Evacuation is the most basic solution, yes.
Yeah.
But even with ample warning, evacuating a city of millions presents a huge logistical challenge.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Think about the traffic jams, the panic, the potential for chaos and disorder.
We've seen how difficult it is to evacuate cities for hurricanes, and we might have far less time with an asteroid.
That's right. And even if we could evacuate everybody, we'd still be left with this massive impact event
Right.
that could have devastating consequences.
So are we just at the mercy of these cosmic bullets? Is there anything we can do?
Well, it's not entirely hopeless. While we may not be able to deflect an incoming asteroid right now, there is something we can do, and that's focus on early detection.
So knowledge is power.
Exactly. The sooner we know about a threat, the more time we have to prepare, even if our options are limited.
That makes sense. So how do we get better at detecting these things?
Well, we need to improve our asteroid detection systems.
Okay.
Invest in better telescopes, both on the ground and in space.
So like having a sharper set of eyes out in space,
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
constantly scanning the skies.
Exactly. And some of these new telescopes are being designed specifically to look for asteroids that are coming from the direction of the sun,
Oh, wow.
the ones that are hardest to spot from Earth.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're not just sitting ducks hoping to get lucky.
That's good to know.
There are active efforts underway.
And you mentioned there are also international collaborations happening to research and develop these deflection strategies that we were talking about.
That's right.
So maybe someday those movie-style solutions, the lasers and the rockets,
Yeah.
they might actually become a reality.
It's possible there's some really smart people working on this problem, exploring all sorts of options.
So what are they looking at?
Well, there's things like kinetic impactors
Okay.
and gravity tractors.
What are those?
Well, a kinetic impactor is basically a high-speed spacecraft that you slam into the asteroid,
Okay.
and it transfers its momentum to the asteroid and hopefully knocks it off course.
So like a cosmic billiard shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
And then a gravity tractor is a spacecraft that would position itself near the asteroid
Okay.
and use its own gravitational pull to tug the asteroid onto a slightly different path.
So it's using gravity to pull it away from us.
Exactly. It's very precise.
Wow.
It would require incredible precision and a lot of time,
Yeah.
but it is a potential solution.
Especially for the smaller asteroids.
Yeah, we're still in the early stages of developing these technologies,
Yeah.
but it's encouraging to know that those options are out there.
It's good to know that people are working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is encouraging. But, even if we perfect these systems, are we just delaying the inevitable?
That's a point.
I mean, there are countless asteroids out there.
Right.
It seems like it's just a matter of time before one hits us.
Well, the Earth has been hit by asteroids throughout its history, and it will happen again, but I don't think that means we should just give up.
Right.
We can take action, we can prepare, and we can continue to develop new technologies.
Okay, that makes sense. But still, just knowing that this threat is out there, even if it's a low probability event, how do you deal with that?
Well, we face risks every day.
No,
Crossing the street, driving a car.
I guess so.
We can't let fear control our lives. The key is to be informed, to support scientific advancement, and just have faith that we'll find solutions.
That's a good point. And, you mentioned in your research this idea of turning these threats into opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So asteroids aren't just potential hazards. They're also incredibly rich in minerals and resources.
Right.
Some of them contain vast amounts of water ice, which could be used to generate rocket fuel.
So instead of fearing them, maybe we'll be mining them someday.
Exactly. It's an exciting prospect, turning these cosmic wanderers into stepping stones for humanity's future in space.
That's a cool way to think about it.
Yeah, and I think even beyond the practical applications, there's something inherently awe-inspiring about asteroids.
Yeah, I agree with it. They're these ancient relics from the early solar system.
Totaling through space,
It's amazing.
each with its own unique story to tell.
They really are fascinating when you think about it. This whole deep dive has been a real roller coaster.
Yeah,
I've gone from, fear and anxiety to wonder and excitement.
I think that's the essence of exploration.
Yeah.
Embracing the unknown, accepting the risks, and ultimately finding meaning in the journey.
That's a great way to put it, the journey.
Yeah,
It's not about reaching the destination. It's about the lessons we learn along the way,
absolutely.
the discoveries we make.
The connections we forge.
Exactly. And, you asked this question earlier that really stuck with me. How should we as a society prioritize asteroid defense compared to other threats that we face?
Right.
That's something I'm going to be thinking about for a while.
Yeah, that's what makes this topic so compelling. It's not just about the science of asteroids, but also about our choices as a society.
Yeah.
It forces us to think about our place in the universe,
Absolutely.
about our priorities, and about what we value most.
You've given me a lot to think about. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
It is my pleasure.
To all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new. Keep looking up, keep exploring, and never stop asking questions.